So I'm going to go ahead and get started this morning. And we have about 20 some people on the call, and we're here for our Restart, Rebound, Rebuild series. We started on Wednesday and talked to some professionals regarding the PPP program and the EIDL loan program. Those two programs are federally funded and have had a lot of changes as we started. People started applying, and there were some questions, and I was getting a lot of calls from our members. So we've decided to start this Restart, Rebound, Rebuild program, focusing on all of your questions, but also easing our way into restarting and reopening all of our businesses, our storefronts, our restaurants, our offices. We know that this is going to be a difficult transition for all of us. It's been a difficult transition to work from home, and I think it will be a long road back, or a slow, cautious road back, I should say. So I'm Gina Sudam, for those of you who I don't know, and I really appreciate you being here on the call with us this morning. This is our series schedule. I think you can all see this. This is our series schedule, what it's going to look like. On Monday, we're going to talk about some human resource concerns. So if you would, after this call, start thinking about what your questions are in the realm of human resources. You can email those questions to me. We're also going to talk to a labor attorney next week. And then on Friday, we'll have a session just like this with follow-up Q&A. We are doing member exclusive sessions on Friday, and that just means members only. Having the Friday group a little smaller will hopefully allow us to do an open Q&A format rather than a pre-planned, just me talking the whole time and our experts talking the whole time. We want you to be able to answer your questions and ask questions. So what we're going to do now is I am going to introduce Alex Halper, who is with the PA. I'm going to unmute you, Alex. And Alex Halper is with the PA Chamber of Business and Industry. He is a great friend of the chamber, has been very supportive of us in our small chamber, and always brings some great insight. So, Alex, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm happy to be with you this morning.
Thanks for joining us. We also have on the call, we have Keith from the SBDC. And Keith, I'm going to unmute you as well. So Keith is a business consultant with the SBDC. And he has helped many people walk through the EIDL process and has answered countless questions on the EIDL loan process. So we thank you for that. We also have on the call, I believe we have, I'm not seeing Neil's phone number. I don't know if we have Neil on the call this morning. But I think we do have a couple of banking folks on the call this morning as well. I want to start by just saying that I read the articles yesterday that the PPP funds have been expended. Alex, that's obviously concerning to a lot of business people. We are hearing that phase 4 may expand that a little bit, but I want to just mention that if you are currently working on a PPP loan, you should call your banker and make sure that they have all the information they need from you, and talk to them directly to make sure you can get that in, if they'll still accept it. I know some banks decided to not accept any more applications at this time. Alex, what are you hearing in that realm?
Well, You're correct in the reports that the PPP funds, I think it was 349 or so $1 billion, has been expended. There is an active effort from advocates and lawmakers in Congress to replenish that program. Uh, the figure that has been discussed is, an additional $250 billion. That obviously is pending and will require another round of appropriations legislation. There is an active effort, I know, from our counterparts of the U.S. Chamber and their colleagues uh, uh, to push Congress to take that up as soon as possible. So obviously, it's still pending. When we've talked to the policy negotiators at the U.S. Chamber as recently as a week ago, they sounded very optimistic that the intention from all major stakeholders in Congress was to, I think there was recognition that those funds would be depleted. The intention was to replenish those when that happened. So, cautious optimism that can occur, but to be determined.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing your insights on that. And Keith, I heard this morning from a local business owner that they did receive some of the emergency EIDL funds. And one of the questions was, so that was the amount the business owner had received was the amount based on their number of employees. And so what the business owner asked was, what should I do with this, right? I'm a little nervous that that I shouldn't just spend it outright, like start paying bills. I'm a little nervous as to what to do. So what would you say to a business owner who maybe just received those funds, and where should they start?
Well, Gina, you live in the world of grants, so one of the most important things with anytime you receive this money is documentation. So you need to just make sure you're documenting everything you do, and that's whether or not you receive the PPP funds, if you receive the EIDL advance, or if you actually start receiving your EIDL disbursements. Just document, keep good records of everything you're spending that money on. There's loan forgiveness in the PPP aspect of it and in the EIDL advance, but it has to be spent on the items that they, are considered for forgiveness. So, you need to be able to show that, and that's the most important part. And I spoke to some bankers yesterday. As obviously everybody was, it was kind of abrupt how they, you knew it was going to. You were hearing that the funds were going to be depleted, but it kind of just happened, quickly when it did, when they shut off the valve yesterday. The bankers I talked to said those people who came to them with all their documentation prepared, it was the people who were, oh, I'm still waiting on this, or I'm waiting on that, I'm going to get it to you. Those are the people who didn't get their applications in. So my advice to everyone, is if they're going to add another $250 billion of appropriations, is make sure you're taking this time right now to get all of the things that the bank requires, or all the things that are required by the SBA for the EIDL loans, and get them in order so that if this money does become available, you're ready to roll.
I think that's great advice, Keith, and I appreciate that. I think documentation is key, and as you know, of course, being ready with that documentation is key. And we have reiterated that kind of time and time again as far as what's needed for PPP. If you have any questions regarding that, as far as what should you have when more money does, or if and when more money does open up, if you have any questions regarding what that documentation might look like, please give the chamber a call, and we have some documents that we can readily share with you to tell you exactly what you will need to apply for PPP again, if and when that money does open up. what I would like to do this morning is allow you to answer your questions. Now, obviously, with 25 people on the call, 28 people on the call, this could be a little difficult. So what I would like you to do is, if you do have a question, I have Deb and Allison are able to unmute people. I would like you to kind of give a wave, kind of raise your hand. There was a raised hand on some calls. I've seen that. I don't see it down here on our screens. Maybe just in the chat box, because we've all been using the chat box on our calls. Maybe in the chat box, just say, I have a question, and we'll unmute you. And then you could ask your question of our experts this morning. And again, we will, looks like Ben has a question here. Let me unmute Ben. Ben, do you have a question?
I was just going to say the little hand is under the reactions button.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you for that. I'm not as savvy with Zoom as I need to be. I need to take some lessons. Thanks, Ben.
No problem.
So if you have a question, if you could just, again, under the reactions button, which is down near the chat, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you could raise your hands there. Alex and Keith, do you have any other things you'd like to share with us this morning about what is kind of happening? Alex, maybe you can give us an update on what you're hearing and seeing. You had a great call yesterday. The PA Chamber did a great call on unemployment compensation and some different things around that. So that helped a lot. I sat in on that call, and we're going to do some similar calls regarding unemployment and so on.
Yeah, that has clearly become an area of focus, as clearly it's been an existing program through which federal and state government is really focusing in order to drive financial support to individuals, but in how they're expanding that program, both through additional funding, enhanced benefits, expanded eligibility, has just created so many questions. I was pretty pleased with the presenters. We had a couple folks from U.S. Department of Labor and Deputy Secretary and an attorney with our State Department of Labor and Industry. We're going to have a recording of that webinar available if folks want to listen to it. It's just an hour, but a lot of really good information, I thought. And we're also putting together a Q&A with the 400 plus questions we got that we weren't able to get to. So I'm glad, Gina, you were able to get on that. The other big update from yesterday, the day before, was the new executive order from the Department of Health that businesses that are able to maintain physical operations have a series of requirements for both their employees and their customers for how they're supposed to protect themselves and others. So definitely make sure you're up to speed. If you happen to be at a workplace that's open right now, there are some additional requirements on you.
Great, I appreciate that. I think we do have a question coming in, and I will make that webinar available to all of our members as well. So I will link in our news releases. I will link the webinar to the PA Chamber, and then when their Q&A becomes available, I will also link that. So we do have their information available. Sunny, did you have a question this morning?
Yes, I do.
Good morning.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. These EIDL applications, I guess, the status of it, since I heard, if you already got the checks, two questions, which I guess one is probably answered in part already. The employee count is what the multiplier of 1,000 is what, they're supposed to get according to the update. Original assumption was it was 10,000 request, get it. qualify or not, you keep it, but I guess it all changed. Where do you go to get the status, whether it is in the queue or it is XYZ, status, or I guess we just wait till XYZ days, or because I haven't got anything yet.
Yeah, from the only information that we have is that disaster customer service at sba.gov is the website to send an email. If you should have received when you submitted the application a confirmation number,
Which we did.
which you did. So you're in the queue. It's just because of the volume of applications they had. And I saw something the other day where it was like they typically do 20,000 loans a year, SBA, and they've done like 1.6 million over the last 2 weeks. So there is just a time, it's just a matter of waiting it out. But the money in the last 3 days, I'm getting emails from a lot of clients that they've started to receive their EIDL advances and their PPP loans. So the money is starting to come in.
The advances, I guess, what I guess just the second part, is it still going to be multiplier of the employee, whatever you put it in?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's that's what it's based on.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I saw on that COVID tracker website where people are actually inputting what they received. The average advance has been around $5,000. So it's obviously based on, a lot of single employees, mom and pop shop versus, the other, people who have, more than 10 getting the whole advance. So it splits it down the middle.
I see.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Sunny, for your questions this morning. It looks like Deborah has a question. I'm going to unmute you, Deborah, and if you could go ahead then with your question this morning.
I actually have the 1-800 number to call and check on the status of the loan. I just sent it to the chat. It's 1-800-659-2955. I actually called them on Monday because I submitted my application on March 27th, and they told me that I was in the queue and there were like 2 million applications ahead of me. But they said that they are working 24/7, 3 separate shifts, like constantly processing these applications. And the person I talked to was really, really nice, and she spent a lot of time with me, so I was pretty impressed with that.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. We appreciate it. It's always good to kind of hear locally from our community about what is happening and that people are receiving this money. So we do appreciate that. How about other questions? Are there other things that you all want to talk about this morning? If you want to share with us questions that you have regarding the upcoming webinars, which again, I can share those so you can see it. I'll share my screen with you so you can see those upcoming webinars. If you have questions regarding those upcoming or for those upcoming webinars, we would certainly take those now so that we can look at what they might be and then make sure that our speakers are prepared to speak on those topics.
And Gene, I mentioned this on Wednesday, but for those people who have kept their employees on, it's very important to speak with your accountant regarding the tax credit part of it. So I'm glad you're covering that on the 27th because there are some great benefits to people who have done that. And it should free up some significant cash flow for businesses.
Yes, I think the tax credits are very important. So we are going to have a tax expert speak on Monday, April 27th, and talk about those tax credits available and what that might look like. You can't double dip those tax credits though. So you can't use the tax credits for employee retention if you have received a PPP loan. Keith, can you use those tax credits with EIDL?
I'm not positive on that.
Okay.
But the other part of it is, I think it just means your loan won't be forgiven.
Right.
So it's not like you can't, it's just you've taken a loan out, really, if you don't, as far as I understand. Alex, you may know more than I do on that.
I'm trying to remember, and I don't know on that specific question.
Yeah, so it is, you can't double dip on any of them. So I mean, again, that's where
Right.
keep making sure you keep documentation on all this is very important.
Definitely. And again, like Keith said, these are,
Jessica's waving her hand there.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sometimes I can't see everyone on the screen. So let me find Jessica. There she is. Hey, Jess.
Hi.
Good morning.
So you guys, good morning. Thank you guys. You were just saying you can't double dip. Does that mean, like, as far as loans go, when the loans started coming out, I just started applying. So if you get the payroll protection and the EIDL, is that double dipping?
They're going to subtract the amount of your PPP loan from the EIDL amount that you receive. So
Okay.
you're not really double dipping.
Okay.
Again, Alex, am I incorrect on that?
Well, I think they'll subtract the
advance.
EIDL amount from what's eligible for forgiveness under PPP. That's my understanding.
Right. So I had a client yesterday told me that he applied for 106,000 in the PPP and he got 96, and then the $10,000 advance on the EIDL.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And so they are two separate loans. Is the EIDL also forgivable, or is that just a straight out loan?
Just the advance, but it has to be used.
Forgivable.
But it has to be used for those specific purposes.
For payroll or rent.
Payroll, right?
Okay, great. But if we get any more from EIDL, that's not
the loan.
Okay,
right.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
And again, that loan is at a great rate. So for small businesses, the EIDL loan is 3.75. And for nonprofits, it's 2.75, correct, Keith? And over 30 years.
It could be amortized out to 30 years. Yeah, so that could be a very low loan payment.
Right. So it may be a great way even for people to look at their existing debt and think about that, since they are getting that. How about other questions or comments? Thank you, Jess.
Yep, thank you.
Sean. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning. Hey, I work with Gannon Associates. One of the things that we've been talking to a lot of our insureds about is mental health of employees. How is that, when people work from home, how do you guys feel that's worked out for you guys or worked out for your employees?
So we have had a couple of, well, I've heard from some of our members obviously about that, and we did early on, probably about 2 weeks ago, we had a mental health expert come on and do a little morning session with us. But I was thinking that we need to add that into our series, right? So what to look for in your employees. Right. Are they joining the morning meetings? Are they getting up every day and getting dressed? Are they getting onto these morning meetings and maybe not looking like they're sleeping well, right? Okay. So I think it is, Sean, I think you bring up a good point. It does certainly, as employers, we need to know what to look for in those triggers. And I think that's definitely a good topic to have on our upcoming calls. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
What else do we have? Does anybody else have any questions this morning? We are actually right on time. I said we'd kind of be about a half hour, but I don't want to neglect anyone if there are other questions. And feel free if I'm missing a wave or something to let me know. Deb, do you have another question, or is that hand from before?
I think it's from before.
Okay. Oh, I guess I needed to, okay. I think we're good. Thank you. So again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us for this series. I hope this was helpful this morning. I appreciate all of you being on the call. I appreciate Matt Schaefer helping us to get this series up and running and keep it running. Allison for all of her hard work in all the graphics and getting our schedule set up yesterday and out to all of our members. Ben, do you have a question?
Yes. Is this going to be the same meeting ID and password for Monday, Wednesday, and Friday every week?
You will get, when you register, you will get a new one. So we do ask that you register for every session separately. That will not change, but you will get a new one. So after Monday, the logins won't be different. But we do ask that you register just so I have an idea of who is going to be on the calls.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Ben. Rich, do you have a question? I'm having a hard time on, there you go.
There I go. Yeah, I just, there's a lot of information available for the PPP as far as what people need to have available when the SBA calls and what you need to support your bank. But what I was told with the EIDL is if you applied online, that's all you needed to do. But I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of documentation. Could you put a list together on what the Treasury and the SBA are going to expect from people on the EIDL loan? Not necessarily the application that went in for the advance.
Keith, do you have a list of any of that information that?
I'm not really sure what you're getting at. That Richard, it's a loan, so why would you need the documentation? You're just have to pay it back.
Well,
Yeah, the advance part.
Aren't they going to want some
forgiven?
sort
That's
of
the part where you're.
verification?
Pardon me?
Aren't they going to want some sort of verification of tax returns, your expenses, what you're using the money for, a normal loan protocol?
I haven't seen anything on that.
I know the SBA told me all you had to do was apply online, and that was mainly for the advance as well as the loan. But it wasn't really descriptive on what the loan amount would be.
Yeah, it's some kind of algorithm they use.
Line.
So we don't really know how they determine that amount.
And then Keith, do you have a list of anything that they would need? Again, the advance is forgivable. So are they asking for anything regarding that advance?
Again, the documentation that, from what I understand, it's the same information as on the PPP loan. So it's, your payroll expenses, your utilities, and your mortgage or lease payment is the forgivable aspect of it. So.
Great, thank you.
Keith, what if you don't have any payroll and you're, a sole proprietor working off of profitability?
Is it line? I'm guessing I'm going on line. Is it line 31 of your? They look at line 31 of your Schedule C to try to determine what your.
Profitability is.
I'm just trying to, at the top of my head, I don't have the information in front of me, so.
We will get that information though.
Yeah, I'm not positive on that.
Find out what they're looking at there, but.
Yeah, it's a little vague for a lot of people. And
the PPP is very vague
because
it's the new program.
It's laid out a little bit better because they ask for 940s, 941s, and so forth. They're not. I'm assuming it's going to be the same for that with the EIDL.
This is Julianne. I think the concern that Rick is talking about is, we have some clients who have applied and some who have not. And if we're hearing that we need to be ready, then, for the next step, or if the funds are reapproved or whatever the case is, I think we want to make sure that we have all of the documentation that might be needed, to be ready. So I think that's where he's coming from and what questions we're answering. So, I'll certainly see what I can find out. Gina, if you can see, and some others, if we can see what we can find out from that standpoint.
Yep, I'd be happy to research that and to reach out to some people to find out if there are some documentation that's going to be needed.
Yeah, because the PPP, we had to have documentation.
Right.
What about the EIDL?
Okay.
Keith, too, if you have some clients that received their EIDL loan,
Yes.
you could verify with them what the process went through outside of their advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
That
Right.
would be a big help.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yep.
Great, we'll look into that. I think there is one more question here. Let me get to that one. Thank you, Rich and Julianne. I appreciate that. Deborah, did you have another question?
Yeah. Do you know anything about the small business assistance grant, the local one? It's like 1,500. It's like Wyoming, Susquehanna, and I think one other county.
Yep, it's Wyoming, Susquehanna, and Bradford counties. There is a private donor who put up funds to receive $1,500 in small business assistance grants. That closes today, the first round. So if you did not put an application in for that, they are looking at forward-facing businesses. So primarily restaurant, retail, I think it's 2 to 25 employees. Again, I'm going off the top of my head, so it might be lower than 25. And they are, again, just really looking to help small businesses stay in business. So if you are interested in that and did not see that information either via Facebook or via our email blast yesterday, shoot me a message and I can get that over to you.
So how do they determine who doesn't?
I'm sorry?
How do they determine who gets it and who doesn't?
I don't know how they are determining that. They're just reviewing the applications. Again, it was a private investment, so I think the donor
Just that they're
is reviewing them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any idea when it's going to be sent out if you get it?
I did hear that they want to turn them over very quickly. So I think that's why they stopped first round today, so that they could issue checks next week, from my understanding.
Thank you.
Yep, they wanted to do something to get money into the small businesses as quickly as possible, because they were hearing a lot of frustration with the federal programs and how long it was taking. So they understood that there was, rent payments and mortgage payments and so on that needed to be made.
Thanks.
Yep, and I also published yesterday on the chamber website, again, under that COVID, I published a whole list of grant opportunities that are out there for small businesses. So please take a look at those. I think some of those will be very helpful. Some are very specific. Some were specifically for agriculture businesses. Some are specific to the restaurant industry. Some are for individuals. But I think overall, it's a good list so far. And if you know of any other grant opportunities, please let me know, because we would like to keep that list updated. Thank you. All right. I think we've answered all your questions, at least that you have so far this morning. Again, know, folks, that we are going to keep this series running Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We will have an open forum on Fridays, just like we did today, for you to ask your questions, get things off your mind, talk through what might be out there and what you're thinking about. We appreciate all of you, appreciate the hard work you're doing. This is certainly a challenging time for all of us, and we don't deny that. Know that we are here as chamber staff. Know that the people who were on our call today as experts, the SBDC, the PA Chamber, they're all working hard for you. And if you get the opportunity to be on any of those calls, please take advantage. The PA Chamber calls are open to all of you, so watch my emails, watch our Facebook page. I do post those so that you know how to log in to those PA Chamber calls, because again, they are very helpful. I appreciate you being here today, and I look forward to talking to you on Monday. Please send me your questions so that we have a great list of questions to go through on Monday morning. Thank you all, and have a great day. Have a good weekend. Bye now.